Welcome to another episode of the Gull-Mouth Action Podcast, where we take a look at all the latest goings on at Brighton, Hove Albion and Crawley Town. I'm Matt Polt, and this week I'm joined by Brighton writer Derren Howard and Crawley Town expert Mark Dunford. There are contrasting emotions for our professional clubs this week, as Brighton enjoyed a fantastic afternoon at Chelsea in the Premier League, while Crawley Town will want to forget their home League 2 clash with Barrow. This week we'll reflect on Albion's glorious trip to West London, pick over the bones of Crawley's home defeat to Barrow, plus bring you all the latest news from both clubs ahead of their respective league fixtures this weekend. You can read all the stories we are talking about, videos and pictures online at sussexworld.co.uk/sport. But before we begin, everyone at Sussex World was shocked and saddened at the passing of Chichester City player Billy Viger last week. Our thoughts are with Billy's family and friends, with everyone at Chichester City and with all those affected by the tragic incident at Wingate and Finchley. Brighton came from behind to beat an ill-disciplined Chelsea side who had a player sent off for the second Saturday running. Substitutes Danny Welbeck and Maxim de Kuiper scored during 11 minutes of added time as the visitors profited from Trevor Chalobah's 53rd minute red card. It was just a fantastic afternoon all round, wasn't it, for the Seagulls? I don't think they could have asked for much more. Derren, who recorded their third win in a row against the Blues, I believe, summed that Seagulls display up for us. It was just... Yeah. What more could they want?
Yeah, the travelling Brighton fans, they really enjoyed the afternoon. They, playing against Chelsea is one of the games that, Brighton look forward to these days because of the recent transfer history between the two clubs. So the fans get really pumped up for that one, and they were, rewarded for at Stamford Bridge, a brilliant second half display. Chelsea were decent in the first half and probably deservedly took the lead. A good header from Fernandez. But yeah, Brighton, the game really did turn on the sending off, and it probably was the sending off. I don't think there were too many complaints from the Chelsea point of view from that one. It was a really clumsy challenge. Diego Gomez was bearing through on goal. Chalobah was the last man, and they got in a bit of a tangle, and he had to go basically. So. But it's never easy when you've got to break these teams down. Chelsea have got solid. They've got solid players. Have spent almost $2 billion since Todd Bowley was there, and you just sort of think, well, they look decent, but where's $2 billion gone? It's just it's quite mad when you look at the team. Most of it's a Brighton, to be honest, probably, but it's but Brighton took full advantage, and I thought Herzella was very clever in how they took advantage of the 10 men Chelsea. Usually Brighton play with the right-footed on the left and then a left-footed on the right, and they cut inside for the wingers. But he changed it. He put Minte on the left, and then Gruder came on the right flank as well, and it really stretched the Chelsea defence. So it really made a big impact, that move to create more space where Brighton could exploit it. And so pleased for Danny Welbeck. He came off the bench. He's struggled this season. Herzella said that he hasn't been at his best. He's prior to Chelsea, he hadn't scored this season. And question marks were being asked of him, and as soon as you're sort of 33, 34, you have a couple of bad games, it's easy to say, oh, he's finished, and but it's the way he took his goals, it just shows there's plenty left in his locker, and I was really pleased.
It was a lovely header, wasn't it, that first one? And the second one, easy to just sort of go. He could have gone over, couldn't he, try and get a penalty or whatever, but such a good finish. Yeah. And the celebrations were amazing. Loved it.
They were, weren't they? Yeah, yeah. To do that in front of the Brighton fans as well, and he's got a habit of scoring against Chelsea at Stamford Bridge as well. He's picked up quite a few goals there. So yeah, Chelsea would love a striker like Danny Welbeck. But they had Sanchez on the pitch, Moises Caicedo, Cucurella, João Pedro. And Van Heck had a great tussle with João Pedro as well, because they had that before Pedro left. Van Hecker and Pedro had that training ground bust up, didn't they? Before Pedro went to Chelsea, and this was the first time that they played each other. And there was some good tweets, sort of posts on social media showing like every duel between the two, and Van Hecker came out quite well in that. So yeah, great afternoon all round for Brighton.
You kind of mentioned it there as well, Derren, in your answer. How much credit does Hertzler deserve for that performance? The substitutes worked a trick, bringing on not just Welbeck and De Kuyper to score goals, but Matt Stiffer and Brian Gruder to provide assists. We all know that it was widely reported that he was under a bit of pressure before this game, but I'm sure that's probably not the case now.
Yes, yeah, it's whether he was under. Yeah, I'm sure he wasn't under any pressure internally, but some fans were getting on his back. There's been a group of fans who have unfairly, I think, sort of criticised the style of play and the tactics, and they're like, well, what is Brighton's style these days? And it's and I think he's flexible. You know, people like Ruben Amorim are criticised for having a style of play, but just being stuck to it and not prepared to change. But I think Hertzler has adapted. He's had to, because they've had so many injuries, and he's a manager that will get the best out of who's available at the time. And I think he makes smart decisions as well from the bench. And this one against Chelsea was very, very good. The way he changed the tactics and also the personnel that he introduced into the lineup as well. And to have Gruder get the assist, De Kuyper, his first goal for the club as well since joining from Club Bruges. That was a nice header as well. Good sort of glancing header. And then obviously Welbeck as well. So yeah, his in-game management at Chelsea was absolutely spot on. And I hope all of those fans who were giving him the stick will give him the credit as well that he deserves. And it's been interesting this week as well, because his name's cropped up being linked to the Man United job.
Yes.
He's also been linked to sort of top jobs in Germany as well. So I think there's a lot of people who really appreciate him, and I think it's and I hope the fans realise that they've got a very talented young manager there, and he needed a bit of time to find his feet, but I think he's doing a very good job. Yeah.
You wouldn't touch that United job with a barge pole, would you, if you were him? Well, I don't understand where that, maybe 5-10 years ago, but I don't see what the attraction is, because you're going to be massively scrutinised. It'll be worse than it is at Brighton. And it just seems like a completely toxic atmosphere at the moment. I'm assuming that, well, I mean, we can only speculate, but I'm guessing that wouldn't hold any appeal to him. It must be hard, because I'm guessing United would throw money at him and probably wouldn't have the same amount of resources that he would have at Brighton. But from a a career perspective, Derren, I don't see the appeal. I don't know how you see it.
It's one of those, isn't it? Where obviously to go to one of the glamour clubs, the top, it would be appealing for any manager, and you'd think most managers would think, I could be the one who would be able to turn that around. But probably Amorim thought that, and then you're in it, and then you realise the size of the task that the players that they have. They just don't have as strong a squad as it's going to take them probably 4 or 5 more transfer windows before they're able to compete at the real top end, if they're allowed to spend that money with PSR and everything. So yeah, it's a funny position at Manchester United. Hertzler was speaking on TalkSport yesterday. He was asked about the position at Man United, and he just said, look, I have full respect for Ruben Amorim, and it's really not the right time to talk about it. He said, I've got a lot of work to do at Brighton. So yeah, and he dealt with the question quite well. You could see the appeal. It would be, for any manager, he's ambitious as well. He'd want to go to, one of the big clubs, I'm sure, at one point. But yeah, maybe I'd probably say Glasner or Andoni at Bournemouth. They're probably higher on the list than Hertzler, I should think, at the moment.
I'm sure most Brighton fans are probably desperate for Glasner to leave anyway, aren't they? It doesn't matter if it's United. Just get out of Palace.
That would suit them.
Well, as Derren rightly mentioned, one player who stood out for Brighton was winger Yankuba Minter, who gave Chelsea fullback Mark Cucurella a torrid time, which is always nice to see. His power, speed and skill caused the Spain international all sorts of trouble and ultimately led to Welbeck's equaliser. It was a great performance from him, wasn't it, Derren. Without meaning to heap too much pressure on him, but have Brighton unearthed their next superstar?
Yes.
Yeah.
I would.
That's it.
There you go.
Say he is an absolute. He's obviously still very young. They bought him for 30 million from Newcastle, and Eddie Howe did not want him to leave. He knew the potential that Yankuba Minte had. Newcastle were under pressure at the time with PSR, and they had to sell, and it was Brighton who nipped in 30 million. Not many people knew about him, really. He'd never made the first team at Newcastle. He'd been on loan at PSV under Arne Slot. Had struggled in the first half of the season, in his first season at PSV. And then he did really well in the second half of the season, played really well under Slot. And Matt Swiffer as well, the Brighton player, was part of that team. And yeah, and again, he looked, when he first came at Brighton, you could see that there's a player there. He's full of pace, and he's composed in front of goal as well. When he gets his chance, as he saw against Tottenham last week, he took that goal really, really well as well. But I think what Herzella has done well as well is how he's adapted his game slightly, so he's now far more aware of his sort of defensive work as well that he has to do as well. So if you watch him live, he's absolute machine. He's up and down, that right flank, doing his defensive work, and also when he gets the opportunity, he's more than capable. He's got the class and the ability to compose himself and then take the opportunities as well. So yes, I don't see any reason, barring injuries or he's only 20, and I think the next couple of years he can be fantastic, and I don't see any reason why he can't reach the very, very highest level. I think he's a heck of a player.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Can this result at Stamford Bridge be a springboard for the Seagulls, Derren? It's a mightily impressive win to match their win over Man City at the start of the season, but is the onus now on Albion to perform like that week in, week out?
That's the challenge now, isn't it? So they've got a pretty good record against the top six teams, and I think it suits Brighton's style in some ways, where the onus is on those teams to come out and attack Brighton, and which sometimes leaves gaps for them Brighton to exploit. Where Brighton have struggled in the past, as they did against Tottenham, are the teams that really put them under pressure and go there to sort of deny them space and to put them under pressure. And some of the teams that are mid-table or lower mid-table, they set up, especially at the Amex, in a low block, and can you break us down? And that's where Brighton have sometimes struggled. But when teams come out to attack Brighton, that's when they seem to be at their best. So I think the next step is to have more consistency against the teams in and around them, and the lower teams, to see if they can break through these low blocks and get through these defensive teams, which they'll have a great chance to do that against Wolves probably. But then again, Wolves are at home as well, so they might have to come out and attack. But yeah, you're right. That's exactly the next step that they need to take now if they are to compete towards the top end.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you mentioning Wolves, Derren, means we can effortlessly segue into Sunday's game. Wolves picked up their first point of the season on Saturday in a 1-1 draw at Spurs. And as kind of we alluded to, Derren, on paper you'd say Brighton are clear favourites for this, but historically this is the type of game the Seagulls struggle in. I'd cast your mind back to last season and that game against Ipswich. How do you see this one going, and what's the latest injury news from the Albion camp?
I think bar that game against Tottenham, which was encouraging for Wolves, they've been all over the place at the start of the season. Especially at home. I think I just saw a piece recently saying that I think they conceded around 10 goals in their first 3 matches. So there's plenty there for Brighton to exploit. And I think Wolves, because they are at home, I don't think they will be able to sit back all the time. And I think Brighton should be able to pick them off if they're at their best quite comfortably. So yeah, hopefully it will be another good away day for Brighton. As we say, they need to start putting a good run together if they are to compete at the top. and they have to go into this one looking at 3 points. I should think it's going to be not going to be easy, but I think Brighton should have enough to get the job done there. As far as injuries are concerned, it's only the three main ones: Jack Hinchelwood with his ankle, Solly March and Adam Webster, the long-term absentees with their knee issues. But other than that, I think Brighton are all good to go. So yeah, I'm gonna confidently say that they should get 3 points at Wolves this weekend.
Oh, confidently. Best of luck to Brighton at the weekend. We're moving on to confidently. Moving on to Crawley Town. First half goals from Josh Gordon and Isaac Fletcher gave Barrow a 2-1 victory at the Reds in League Two. Geraldo, if I can say his name, Bajrami gave the hosts hope with his first goal for the club midway through the second half, but it ended in a 6th defeat in 10 league games for Scott Lindsay's side. Another disappointing one. Mark, yeah, I'm running out of ways to say that, unfortunately. Sum that up for us, please.
Yeah, it was the first half cost them, basically. They were abysmal in the first half. It was one of the worst halves, 45 minutes of football I've seen from a Crawley Town side. That's not taking anything away from Barrow. They came to do a job, and they did a really good job, certainly in the first half. Scott Lindsay said before the game that they would have to be inventive to try and break Barrow down. But Barrow came out to get an early goal and then probably defend. And they didn't get an early goal, but they did get a goal in the first half. I mean, they forced, I think it was 5 corners in the first 10 minutes, Barrow, which is ridiculous for an away side. And and Josh Gordon for Barrow was exceptional. He was so good. And we're going to come on to Crawley's striking woes in a bit. But if they could have somebody who has had the vision and the drive and the thing of Josh Gordon, he was superb. He scored the first goal, created the second. He was clear. He was man of the match for either side. And Crawley they were slow in the first half, and they just didn't really create anything. They had one moment where Dion Pereira went through, and it was like a half volley, and he hit it so well, but it came off the inside of the post. And any other day, it would have rocketed into the opposite corner or whatever. But it somehow went across the face of goal and went out for a goal kick. It was bizarre. And yeah, if that had gone in, it would have been a completely different story. I'm sure Crawley would have gone on to win. But it was the second goal just before the break was a real killer. Second half, Crawley were great. They were really, really good, and sort of back to the old Scott Lindsay thing. But they just couldn't. Well, they could break Barrow down, but they couldn't score, and it ended up being a really frustrating afternoon. But it was the first half that cost them. But Barrow, to be fair to them, they came to do a job and they did it, and I was quite impressed with Barrow. I thought they looked like a good side, but Crawley probably they had the chances to win it basically in the second half, but just couldn't score.
Yeah, well, we'll come on to the scoring in a minute, but you mentioned Lindsay's. You mentioned the first half, sorry, and it not being particularly good. Lindsay gave a very frank assessment of the first half display against Barrow. What were his words?
Yeah,
Mark?
He basically said they didn't turn up because he said in the preview, he said he wants them to come out like Zebedee and really go for it and really get the crowd going. They just didn't do that, and he said they didn't turn up. He said in the second half they were good, but he said I think it's easy when you're 2-0 down to play better because the other team are just going to be happy with the 2-0 lead. They said we weren't present at all. We were slow with the ball. We worked with on their defensive shape all week, how they'd block up. And one thing I said literally all week before they went out was to move the ball really quickly, but they didn't do that. And he said it was a wasted 45 minutes. You've got to play for 90 minutes, 95 minutes, 96 minutes, sometimes longer. We just weren't present. We were just out there, just passing it left to right, sideways, backwards. It was safe football, and when you're playing safe football, you're not going to score goals. So he did seem a little bit like a broken man when he came into the press conference on Friday. I think, yes, he has to take some of the blame, but the players have to take a lot of the blame, I think, because he says he told them exactly what they needed to do to come out and really go for it, and they just didn't do that, and don't know what it was. They lost Adi Adeyemo quite early. They had to substitute him through an injury. Harry Forster came on, looked really good. He was probably Crawley's man of the match, which was encouraging because he hasn't had a lot of minutes. But Lindsay was, you could tell he was furious. I was watching him in the first half because I was frustrated watching Crawley, and I was looking at the sky, and he didn't seem to get angry. He just seemed like a man who didn't know what was going on. He's like, this is not what I told him to do. And he just looked frustrated and just perplexed, really. I think I used that because I was doing live commentary on Saturday. I think I used the word perplexed a couple of times, and it was a perplexing performance, that first half.
Well, also in his post-match interview, as you alluded to, Mark, about the goal-scoring issues, Reds manager Lindsay bemoaned an invisible brick wall shielding Barrow's goal as the visitors kept Crawley at bay. Badrami eventually found the net, but as you said, Mark, it was another frustrating afternoon in front of goal for the Reds. Why have they struggled so badly in front of goal this season? Like, you look at the strikers they've got, they're not bad strikers, are they?
No, Harry McCurdy's playing up top now. And he always looks like the only player that's going to create something or score at the moment. His movement's really good. It's just I think the service has got a lot to do with why they're not scoring. But Harry McCurdy scored 4 goals, but they come in 2 games, those 4 goals. Shimanga scored that 1 goal against Swansea, which was not the cleanest of goals. It was a bit of a scramble, and he got a little touch on it, so fell over the ball and it went in. A goal's a goal.
Mark. A goal's a goal. Doesn't matter.
Ryan Loft, he scored against Aston Villa's 17-year-olds or whatever. Not to take anything away from that, because it was a good performance that night, but he scored a good header against that team. But, I mean, Loft on Saturday, he could have had a hat-trick, if not more. There was one chance right at the end where he was a yard out and the ball was bouncing and it was an awkward height and there was a defender in front of him. But you've got to put it away from there. But he had another chance where a header, the ball was bouncing around the box and the ball bounced perfectly for him, the header, and he could have headed it anywhere, but he headed it straight at the keeper. I mean, you'd be more worried if they weren't creating chances. I mean, if you look at the stats on Saturday, they had 20 shots on goal, and 6 of them were on target. And it says 2 big chances on flash scores, but there were more than 2 big chances. There was, I think Josh Flint forced a brilliant save from the keeper and also hit the post. I think Harry Forster hit the post as well. I think they sort of hit the post, went into the side net, and everybody thought he'd gone in, and everybody was cheering because the net did that ripple thing, like that Raheem Sterling goal in the whatever World Cup against Italy, wasn't it? It was like that. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what it is. Is it just a confidence thing? Are the strikers not that good? Are they hoping that, because neither Ryan Loft or Shimanga have had that 20, 30 goal season, but we remember Danilo Orsi hadn't had that before he joined Crawley, and he had that golden season that effectively helped get them into the playoffs and ultimately promotion. I think that's what they're hoping for. At the moment, it's just not clicking. I mean, Orsi, I think it took him 3 or 4 games to get his first goal, and then there was no looking back. This is taking longer, and it is worrying. And I think part of it is the delivery into the box. I mean, the corner was really good with the header from Badrami. It's a good delivery from Pereira. But there doesn't seem to be enough balls going into the box. And Barrow were difficult. They set up really well. They were really well organised defensively. But they still had 20 chances. And you've got to be scoring more than 1 goal from those. So is it a confidence thing? I mean, Scott Lindsay joked he thinks he needs to get someone in to come and bless the Gull-Mouths, try and get something in there. He's looking for divine intervention, I think. But it does seem like it's not quite, like I said, the Pereira effort, which hit the post. Any other day, you'd expect it to come off the post, go rocket into the back of the net. But it just, it still sort of defied the law of physics, how it didn't go in. And it just doesn't seem to have any luck. You just hope it is Loft gets a goal or Shimanga gets a goal and it really kickstarts their season. But it's just not going for them at the moment. And I think they're relying a lot on Harry McCurdy to score those goals.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've said quite a few times this season there's going to be one game when they put 6 or 7 past someone.
Said afterwards.
But it needs to
said that afterwards. Yeah. It's somebody is going to be on the end of a hiding at some point. But at the moment you just can't see it. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, it needs to happen, doesn't it, for everything to kind of seem okay? And at the moment, it doesn't look that way, does it?
Yeah.
No. Eyebrows were raised when Lindsay failed to make a single substitution in the second half, with attacking options Kaheem Dixon and Kabongo Shamanga consigned to the bench while the Reds chased an equaliser. Why didn't Lindsay make any second half subs, Mark? What was his reasoning behind that? And do you think they almost missed the trick in not bringing on those two? I mean, stating the obvious, possibly.
It is, because Dixon certainly would have provided a little bit of extra creativity. He does look like one of those players that can just do one moment of magic will open up a whole defence kind of thing. So it was a surprise. But because when he came in, we were all, I think generally most people were scared to ask him why he didn't make any substitutions, because you ask a manager, why didn't you do this? And he's like, why do you want to do my job, sort of thing. You expect that answer. But I sort of said it, and he got a little bit defensive about it, but I quickly interjected saying, I'm not questioning the decision. I just said it's rare that you don't see a second half substitution. And I think that made him relax a little bit more, that I wasn't questioning his decision. But it wasn't a criticism. It was just like, you don't see that. You always see. You have 5 substitutes on the bench now. You can use them all. They obviously had that forced one in the first half. But what he said is that they were playing so well, and they were playing well in the second half, that he didn't want to introduce something that would stop them from being. They had so much momentum. He didn't want to stop them from that momentum, and he thought bringing off one player and putting on another might have changed the dynamic, and it might not have still been so forward thinking and that. But when you've got Kaheem Dixon and Shamanga on the bench, surely they are going to have the same mindset as the person they're replacing. And it was strange not to see it, but I do get that. And Lindsay said it wasn't just his decision. He said to Neil Smith and Jamie Day, his 2 assistants, do you think we should make a change? And they said, no, don't. There's no point, because we're doing so well. Sure. And I think they obviously at that point they thought, we've got to score. We're having so many chances and all that. But it was. I mean, it's easy to say in hindsight, isn't it? Kaheem Dixon could have made the difference. Yes. Shamanga could have got that first goal that kick-started his Crawley career, and he goes and gets a double on Saturday away at Cambridge or something like that. But I do understand that. But I mean, at one point it looked like they might have to substitute the keeper. We had that conversation a couple of weeks back. Lindsay didn't use a sub-keeper, Jojo Wallacott in goal for the EFL trophy. And Lindsay said, it's a gamble, but I don't want to name a sub-keeper because of the homegrown rule. You have to have a homegrown player. And if he has a keeper on, that's one less outfield player that he can have on the subs bench. So that's why he doesn't do it. And he said that night, what did he say? He said, it's a gamble. He said, but how often do you see a keeper get injured? And he said that night, I know that's going to come back and bite me on the backside. And on Saturday, there was a big delay where Harvey Davis, he hurt his finger and he had huge strapping on his finger, and to the point where they were struggling to get the glove back on. And you thought, oh God, there's no way he's playing in the second half. And that was just before the end. And Barrow had a couple of shots in, but they should have had, I said it on commentary, if you saw that, you would be pinging shots in everywhere. Because there was one effort where he would have been diving with it was his left hand, I think it was. And he dived and he went across like that and sort of struggling to reach it because he didn't want to hurt that finger. But he came out in the second half and it was all one-way traffic. He had not much to do second half, so it was okay. But you wonder what would have happened if they had to have to take him off. I think we asked Charlie Barker, and Charlie Barker said it was either him, Gavin Houlihan, or Josh Flynn who would have had to go in goal. They were all getting ready to go. I think they all fancy themselves as keepers as well. So, but that would have been interesting if that had happened. But it'd be, we're speaking to Scott tomorrow, so we'll find an update on Harvey Davis. But Harvey Davis has been brilliant. He pulled off some really good saves in the first half. Neither goal was really his fault on Saturday, and he's been really good. So he'll be a big loss if he is out injured.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you mentioned, Mark, this week sees the Reds hit the road to face Crawley in League 2 on Saturday, and then Leyton Orient in the EFL Trophy on Tuesday. The U sit 10th in League 2 while League One Orient began their EFL Trophy campaign with a 3-1 win at Holders Peterborough at the start of September. 2 games for Crawley this week, Mark, but 2 very different sets of challenges. How do you see these games going, and how crucial is a win at Cambridge?
Oh, they've got to get something there, haven't they? They really have. It's because you look at the table and a couple of wins, suddenly you're up in the top half because it's so tight. But a couple more defeats, and then there could be suddenly a big gap between you and top half. So they've got to start picking up points, and Cambridge's got to be a tough game away from home. They went there last year. One of the few games they actually won last year was the 1-0 win. Adi Adeyemo scored, really good goal. So it's vital they get something. I mean, a draw is a good result, but is it going to be enough? Scott Lindsay will go there and want to win. And like I say, they're capable of winning. They're capable of it. You just hope it clicks for them. But depends if they haven't got Adeyemo, who's been really good. But like I say, Forster was good. If they haven't got Harvey Davis, you'd imagine Jojo Wallacott comes straight in. So still haven't got Danny Cashman. Jay Williams is obviously still out. So it's going to be interesting. And what he does with the striker, because like I say, Ryan Loft, the fact that he had a load of chances and created a load of chances is a good thing. But finishing, does he give Shamanga another go? Louis Flower, we haven't seen much of him. He scored quite a few in pre-season. Looked really good. So lots of decisions for Lindsay to make on that one. But yeah, it's difficult to see them winning at Cambridge, but they're capable, and anything less than a draw will be again another really disappointing. And it starts to really look a little bit like, oh God, you're being really dragged into it already this season. But I don't know. It's like Scott said to me last week. It's August. You don't look at a table in August. It's not August at all. It's October now. But you don't look at the table this early on in the season. Yeah, he said in the promotion winning season they weren't very good. In October, in the promotion winning season, they've got 1 point from 5 games. They lost 4. Yeah, they lost 4 out of 5 games. Hopefully, they've had that run, and now they're going to start picking up points. October's going to be a really good month for them, and then suddenly everything's rosy again. So, fingers crossed that. Yeah, but then you look following week in the league, they've got Walsall at home, who are top of the table. So, another really tough game. But Crawley always seem to bring it out, and on those home games against the top side. So. Leyton Orient, a chance to see other players again. I think Lindsay will rotate the squad, give those players that haven't had much minutes. But a tough game going to Leyton Orient, but it all depends on how seriously Leyton Orient are taking the EFL trophy. So we'll see. They've already won 1. So probably those 2 are the 2 unbeaten sides in that competition. So it'll be interesting to see how they get on, but they'll certainly go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Best of luck to Crawley this coming week. And as per tradition, we will end with score predictions. We will start with Wolves v Brighton in the Premier League on Sunday. Derren, what do you reckon?
I'm going to go... I said I'd confidently predict a Brighton win, and I'll have to stick to that. So I'm going to go 3-1 3-1 to Brighton.
Mark, how do you see this one go? I can only think of that Ipswich game last season, which leads me to believe that Brighton might end up doing something silly here. But I don't know whether that's just being pessimistic.
I do think it'll be a little bit after the Lord Mayor's show, and I think it'll be a draw. I think Wolves did okay at Tottenham on Saturday, didn't they? They look like they're being a little bit more robust. Yeah. So I think I think it'll be a draw. I think it'll be a 1-1 draw, and it'll be disappointing for Brighton again. Yeah, against one of the weaker sides, which they tend to do.
Yeah.
Then Saturday in League 2, we've got Crawley at Cambridge. Is this the game where Crawley are going to run amok and put Cambridge someone to the sword, Mark? Is it? I don't think it will be
this weekend, but I think they will pick up something. I'm gonna go with another draw. I think it might be like 2-2, but a really good confidence building result and performance. I think, and hopefully either Loft or Shamanga get both goals and really kickstarts their season.
Would that be sorry, I don't know if you answered this in the previous question. Would that be seen as a positive result?
I think so. As long as it's a performance, because if it was a draw on Saturday, obviously it would have been hugely disappointing. But I think on the road, a draw against a Cambridge side who are 10th in the league, so they're not doing too badly, are they? So I think a draw, as long as the performance is good as well, as long as it's not a Chesterfield go 2-0 up and then draw 2-2. That's the worry, isn't it? So as long as it's a good fighting performance that they're really showing, and it's a 90-minute performance, I think that's what Lindsay is looking for, a good solid 90-minute performance. So depending on the circumstances, yes, a draw is a good result.
Derren, what do you reckon is going to happen at Cambridge?
I think the goals will be blessed at the Abbey Stadium this weekend. So I'm going to go 2-1 to Crawley, and it will be a substitute, a Scott Lindsay substitute that was scored.
Excellent.
Ooh, in the second half. That's what we want.
Yeah, he'll make it. Yeah.
And finally, Orient v Crawley in the EFL Trophy on Tuesday. Obviously, it doesn't hold as much significance as the Cambridge game, Mark. So what do you reckon? It's kind of a bit of a shrug of the shoulders, that game, isn't it, really? I don't know.
It's a difficult one to predict because you don't know how seriously Leyton Orient will take it. Obviously, I mean, I think Lindsay will play our strongest side, but it won't be the first 11. I can't imagine Harry McCurdy will play in that game, and Dion Conroy and people like that won't play. But I will go for a 2-1 Crawley win, and Crawley go to Wembley this year in that competition. Come on, Crawley.
And finally, Derren, what do you reckon? Crawley Orient?
Is it Leyton Orient? Or?
It is indeed, yes.
I'm going to go Leyton Orient 1-0.
Oh.
After all that, I thought we were going to get some optimism there, Derren. The divine intervention ends in Leyton Orient. Oh, well, I don't think they'll be too disheartened if they get beaten at Orient. Cambridge is the one to call this week, I think. Thank you very much for your contributions this week, chaps, and best of luck to Brighton and Crawley this weekend. Don't forget you can catch up with all the latest sports news covering everything we've talked about today at sussexworld.co.uk/sport. Thank you very much for listening and or watching. We will see you all next week.